Today on Mr. Nashville Talks, one of America's TV sweethearts as Thelma from Good Times, Bernadette Stanis. Well, today is a show that if you had told me when I was a little kid that I was going to be able to sit and talk with Bernadette Stanis, who played Thelma on Good Times, I would not have believed you because that was my favorite show, and she looks younger than I do, and that it's not even that's not how it should be. But you look great. How are things
Thank
going?
you. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, Larry.
Well, you guys recently, the cast from Good Times got to reunite for Norman Lear and Jimmy Kimmel's live in front of a studio audience. What was it like with everybody getting together again?
It was awesome, actually, because it was like watching all of us watch the new people do the part, which
Yeah.
was kind of probably a little nerve-wracking for them. And it was just so wonderful when, we saw Norman was there and some of the writers on the Good Times on his older shows. And we all took pictures together, and just seeing them all again was just so wonderful. Janae was there, John. We all were there except for Ralph Michael. He wasn't there because his mother was ill and he was taking care of his mom.
Yeah.
But we had a lovely time. We were treated very, very well. And we were just watching them perform. I think it was nerve-wracking for them, though.
I would say so, because you have the originals, and you they'll never be able to top that. Only just try to do like a little hat tip to you guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They were very nice. They gave us our respect and our decency. So
Yes. Yeah.
I have nothing but good things to say. Mr. Kimball was awesome. Norman is always awesome. And we just had our little moment, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it seems like the last couple decades, there's been little here and there talks about movies, and possibly a Good Times reunion movie, and then there was someone talking about a Good Times reboot for a movie, which I don't think they need a reboot. I think if there's any kind of movie, it needs to be the originals, and
Yes,
pay.
everybody says that.
Yeah, because I think there's no way to top what you guys did, and they'll constantly be having to be compared, because they're going to create something altogether new anyway, if they do a reboot. And there's no way, because all of you guys were so unlike some of the other shows. You guys were really not caricatures in any way, shape, or form of people. You all were real people, like with George, George Jefferson, it's fun for, like Jamie Foxx, he had fun with it and all that, and you could do that. But all of you guys were serious characters and serious parts.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes a lot to pull, when you're doing that, it takes a lot to pull that kind of love from an audience. We don't want to give that away to someone else. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense to me, because I hear that all the time. And it's like, why are you doing that? These people are still alive. Why don't you just use them or continue into how they became? Because they want to see. They fell in love with us. We were the first, African-American family show.
Yes.
With everyone. So, and then in the projects where a lot of Black people were at the time.
Right.
And so we identified with, so many people, and also people who were poor. They didn't have to be Black. They also identified with us. And I think, that hurts their heart to see that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's like when we invite you into our homes every week, you become family through the television, and one of the things there's so much that you learn about. It's almost in a way a history book, because what was going on in the world was emulated on Good Times.
Yes.
It wasn't, everything's, going by easy. Yeah. I mean, it was tough times. Like now we have a lot of over policing and the inner city. Back then, you couldn't get a policeman to come to, they called the police.
Not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my kids couldn't understand that. They're like, oh, there's always been over policed. But it wasn't back then.
It
People had to
wasn't, no.
beg for cops to come. And by
They-
then,
They were afraid, and then
Yeah.
so I guess they had to toughen up, but maybe they got too tough.
yeah, yeah, exactly. A little rough and tough.
See, back in my day, I studied at Julliard and everything.
Yes.
So, I'm I can act a bit.
Yeah.
And, I always thought that there was going to be a little bit more going on for me at that time. And I realized that it didn't. And I still to this day don't understand that. But it wasn't as it is today. Like if you create a character like myself or a person, that did that kind of work, you would see them go on. Or
Yes.
Norman was known to spin shows off.
Yes.
So a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you and Keith get a spin-off?
Yeah.
Or why didn't, and I couldn't answer that. I said, you're going to have to ask Norman Lear for that.
I was the only kid in the neighborhood probably that went around strutting like George Jefferson and saying dynamite and my whole family, they laughed. They always, then they'd say, do this in front of all the people. And we had a lot of family that lived in the inner city. So one of our neighbors there, she just loved it. And every time our family would come to town, she'd say, now do George Jefferson. Now do. And I'm like,
I did it at JJ.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually met JJ, Jimmy JJ Walker at Comedy Club. He's still out there working the comedy thing and doing it.
Yes, he is. We're very good friends, very close.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I was going to ask you. I guess you becoming a family like that, it would be hard to separate and not talk to each other over the years. It's kind of, you probably saw more of them than your family in a lot of ways.
In a way, and it was very fortunate that, especially, being the kids, on the show, we had more interaction with each other. So we became close,
Yeah.
To this very day, I'm like their real sister in a way,
Yeah.
They call me on my birthdays. We talk about little things. I just love those two guys, JJ and, Michael. I love both of them and they love me.
Yes.
I was very close to Esther Roll. She was
Yes.
a great model for me and a mentor. And I was a very good listener because, I had to be, just. Well, anyway, I was, and I did everything that I tried to do right. So I'm grateful that I had her as a mentor. Janae was very, very talented. She created things on the spot, so we loved her for that. She knew how to make us laugh and keep it happy. John, he was a protector for real. He really felt like a dad on the show, and he guided me also. He said some things and told me some things to do, not to do. And I thank him for that. And so that, and I like Johnny Brown,
Oh yeah, he's great.
He was great. He is so talented.
Yeah.
And the guy who played my husband was very talented too. Ben Powers,
An impressionist and everything.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. When you came into the set, you have Esther Roll and you have John Amos, but these very experienced, stage trained. I tried to explain to someone I was talking to. I said Esther was kind of like what Betty Davis was, but in her community,
Yes, absolutely.
Not to the world yet until Good Times, but she had already had this huge career in theater and all of all of that. What was it like? Was it intimidating coming on to a series with them?
No, it wasn't at all. Because I knew my character.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew my character, so I was well prepared. Studied at Julliard, so I felt
Yeah.
confident enough to be there. Although I was the rookie,
Yeah.
because Ralph Carter was already on Broadway. He was
Yeah.
a very
Raising.
known star, and Jimmy was already out on the road, and
Yeah.
so he knew his rhythm. It was just myself being the rookie. So I was quite quiet, and I looked and I studied and I listened, and all I did was just wait for my little turn to do my little part. And the most interesting thing, though, is that I was born and raised in Brooklyn, in Brownsville, in the projects. So I knew this character.
Yeah.
And because she was so very much like the way my parents raised me and my other brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And they kept us on the narrow. My mom and dad always knew where we were at all times. I'm like, how they always know, but they did. You know what I mean? So I kind of knew her, and I was fortunate enough that the producers, because of Esther, asking them to give me more to say, because I asked her. I said, Mom, I'm not saying anything. And she says, well, let me handle it. And she spoke with them, and they asked me to come up to the office and to explain to them, or to let them know who I believe Thelma was.
Yes.
And they honored that. And
because I would think that most of the writers were probably older white guys, a lot of them, at least in the beginning, maybe. And how are they going to write for a young Black teenage girl? I would, there's no way that they could.
No, it was no way. Yeah. That's why in the beginning, you always saw me in the bathroom.
Yes. Running, the bathroom, kitchen,
and couldn't cook and whatever. But that was something that Esther didn't mind, me not being able to cook, because she wanted me to focus on a career. She wanted to show, that side of it, maybe going to college, and I wanted to be a doctor, and the aspirations, and so that was wonderful. But no, they wrote the lines, and they gave us the opportunity to express ourselves as far as change the line. It didn't really fit for us. They kind of understood that, So it was like a learning process for the writers as well as for the actors. We had to blend together.
Yes.
You had to give and take, you know what I mean? Yeah. Some things we didn't like, but we did them. And some things they liked, we did, or vice versa. Some things we said we didn't like, then they had to deal with it. So I'm saying we had to give and take. And I believe that give and take, and whatever that energy was, it made the #1 TV show.
Yes, yes. And at that time too, you were every bit as, I'm trying to be tactful with how I say this, well, like Farrah Fawcett, you were very much the boy's dream, and I'm trying not to say anything.
You can say it. I'm okay.
They were lusting after you at that point, I mean, and
I hear the guys tell me that I was their first crush, or their first girlfriend, or
And you haven't changed, so you probably still are.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, you're beautiful. And I think that too, the shows back then, your show, but I'm saying the episodes, if you put those and aired them today, they still work.
Yeah.
There's some little tweaks that are different, like what we were talking about the police and things, but everybody is still struggling, and people still are trying to get their civil rights. Yeah. You still have all these things happening that were happening back then.
But it's interesting, because I think that's why Good Times is still being played today.
Yeah.
Because people say, I just was watching that show this morning, and they love it. They all tell me they still watch it because they can identify with it. Yes. It's one of the shows that lasted for the whole 40 years. And they identified with it and still do. And that's what makes it so beautiful and so wonderful for me, because I'm able to experience the second and third generation of it.
Yes, exactly. And back then when the show was originally airing, there wasn't very many channels. So, tens of millions, just the three. And so tens of millions of people are watching.
Yes.
And, now you're lucky to get a couple million for a TV show,
It's so many shows, you just don't know what to watch.
Yes.
I get so confused sometimes. I put this thing on and I'm looking at this show and that. I'm like, ugh, I just can't keep up. You know what I mean? And you lose some of the characters.
Yes.
Now, I must admit that I couldn't stop watching Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop watching it. And that's before they won anything,
Yeah.
But again, they were the struggling people.
Yes.
So trying to stay on top. So
Right.
more people identify with things like that than you know.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And did you all have, I'm sure you had a lot of celebrity fans. Did you have like a celebrity fan letter or someone reach out to you when Good Times was on that still sticks in your mind?
I have so many beautiful letters from people. I have letters from people that are in prison. Yeah, I get those too. And, some of them, are a little, I can't read them, but, and then some of them are, you inspired me. But what touches my heart a lot now is that when I'm on the ground doing my book signings and things, I would see a woman who would come up to me and I clip, she got bags in her hand, she's shopping, she's doing the thing, and she's looking at me. And this one woman did this to me recently, and she looked at me and she said, you don't know what you did with me. Yeah. And she cried in it. I've experienced the tears before, but the way she did it. And then she came back and she said, you just don't know. And then she decided she wanted to take a picture with me and things like that. But what she said to me was, I lived through you because my mother didn't want me.
Oh, isn't that, yeah.
It broke my heart, and she's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably a sergeant or something in the military, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she, that was very touching. And I thank God that I was able to be that person for so many, young people, girls, whomever,
yes.
That like the show.
Yes, definitely. You mentioned your books. Could you tell us a little bit? I mean, you have 4, and could you tell us a little bit about how you started writing and kind of tell us a little bit about each book, that you can.
My stories can get a little long there, so I'm gonna
hey, that's well, we'll listen.
Okay, well, I always loved writing poetry. Poetry was my thing. Of course, dancing was my thing.
Yes.
I always thought I was going to be a dancer, a famous dancer, and poetry was the thing that I used to express myself with, and I did that throughout my life. And while I was on Good Times, around the second year, I got something called nodules.
Oh, yeah.
And I would sound okay in the morning, but in the afternoon and evening, my throat would throb and I would sound like a man. I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is not cool. Yeah. So I went to the doctor and everything, and he said, you have nodules and we can remove them, but there's a thing where your voice can come back normal or your voice can go away forever. But I'm like, well, he said, but I think we're going to do a good job. So I did it, but I couldn't speak when I was, I had to heal. So it took a little time. So I asked the producers, what should we do? So they told me, we don't want you to lead the show. We don't want that. So do not speak for the whole week. And then on tape night, you can speak.
Yeah.
And I did that. And so my voice healed and I stayed in the show. But in the meantime, I can't talk. So I'm writing notes. I'm writing. Wait a minute. We didn't have spell check.
Yeah, you're right.
It was like, okay.
Handwriting, pen to paper.
Is this right? Oh, just, and I would show it to people so that they know what I was saying. So then I realized, I said, you know what, I'm tired of this. This is not working. I'm just going to be quiet. And I was like quiet for like 3 months. It's just like quiet. And I think in the quiet time, that's when I was kind of blessed with poetry. I mean, things like writing, ideas, just things just kept coming to me. And I think that's where my writing career started.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, which of the books means, well, I know which one actually probably means the most to you, so we'll talk about that one separately. I think you know the one that's involving your family, but explain to us why you wrote about the topics you wrote about.
Okay.
The 101 and find.
Okay. Well, I wrote about situations 101.
Yes.
Relationships. I wrote about that because I was on the road doing plays. I did almost every play, every gospel play, you name, I was in it.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I wanted to produce my own play, which I did. I produced a play with all celebrities, and I was the star. Can you imagine that mess? I'm walking around like, holding everybody like a China doll. Then when they're finished, I got to get my head together to do lines. I said, after that show was over, I said, I think I just want to do something by myself.
Yeah.
And so I sat down, I thought about all the things that I could write about. But what kept popping in my head most was some of the situations that I had heard about relationships while I was on the road, and I became friends with a lot of people. They would call me, being that they were in different states, they would call me and tell me things, that they would never tell anybody that knew anybody that they knew.
Exactly.
So I became that girl. And so I listened to this across the country, the same types of things. I said, you know what? Maybe it's time to expose some of these relationships. Of course, I would never use their names or anything, but expose some of the horrible things that I'm hearing, and not just from women, but from men also. And they needed answers too. So I'm like, I don't know a lot, but I do know a little bit about relationships because I love psychology. And when I was a very young girl, my mother told me to read every book I can find on relationships. Why? I don't know, but she did. So I learned a lot. So the advice that I gave them was very helpful. So I said, in my book, I wrote the situation, and then I wrote a response, meaning I'm not a doctor. I'm just the girlfriend. I'm just a friend. I'm writing my little point of view. It doesn't mean anything. But the deal was that I wanted to expose the situations.
Yes. I love that.
That's how I wrote that one.
I love that. And the one I believe is probably the most special to you is probably the one dealing with your mother. And do you mind talking about that, or is that too?
Oh, no. I don't mind talking about it at all, because I believe that the book is a gift that was given to me, and it's something that I have to do. Being an actress, it's very, very difficult to expose this, because a lot of people say, well, you're an actress, and your mother had Alzheimer's and whatever they can do. But I felt that if my mother had such a disease, I will not be ashamed of it.
Right.
I will not be ashamed of it, because she didn't cause it. If she did cause it, she didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
We have to find out what this is. The devastation for me was realizing that when I was on the book tours and I had my mother with me, I took my mother everywhere. Yeah. And I said, and people would ask her questions like, how did you get your daughter to good times? And how does it feel to, have a daughter that does this? And what did you do special? And mommy was just, she was answering, but it was, coming into the Alzheimer's thing, but she was answering. So I said, Mom, wouldn't it be nice if we just did a book together? I mean, if you wrote a book and then we could sit together and sign and be together like that. And she said, oh, yes, I would love it. So I said, well, okay, so what do you want on the cover? She said, I love light blue. So I want it to be blue with a little picture of me and you, things like that. So we decided we're going to do this. It seemed like the moment we decided to do that, the Alzheimer sped up.
Oh.
And I was in a spin because I'm trying to keep my mom alive. I'm trying to do the book tours. I had to slow those down a bit, but I'm trying to keep mommy alive and feeling good and dressing her every day and making her as happy as she could be. And, raising my 2 daughters. And it was the sandwich thing.
Yes.
And people don't realize about caregivers.
Yes.
That we lose ourselves a lot of it,
Right.
Yeah, we do. And we're like, and I kept saying to myself, oh, I'm good. I'll just worry about mommy. I'll raise them girls. And let me tell you, I'll do something when mommy is done and they're grown, I'll take care of me. That's not good.
Right.
Because what happens is, well, for me, my mother would eat and I wouldn't want to hurt her feelings. So she would forget that she ate, of course, and she would want to eat again. And she always wanted me to eat with her.
Oh, yeah.
No, wait a minute. So I did. I wanted to make my mom happy. Well, I was getting so big, and I didn't even I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
That's how disconnected I had become.
You're right.
From me. So anyway, but I'm just saying, those things we have to be careful of as a caregiver. Now, Alzheimer's itself is a whole nother monster. I realized that I call it the monster of the mind because it's cruel and it's evil and it's wicked and it doesn't go away and it doesn't spare you. And you have to watch what it does to your loved ones. So with that in mind, I used to cry a lot in the middle of the night. I would cry. I would say, oh my God, what can I do? What can I do? And then I would question God, why her, and then, why? And so it wasn't until really mommy passed away that I got an answer. And to me, it was the answer that kind of soothed me because it was as if I believe so strongly in God. That's why.
Yes.
It was as if he said to me, your mother is a scary lady. And if she had recognized that she was dying, that would be torture for her.
Yeah.
So my mother every day got up like she was the Queen of Sheba. She loved that red lipstick, baby. She never wore red lipstick in her life.
Wow.
But with Alzheimer's, she wanted the brightest, reddest lipstick. But you know what I'm saying? So it was as if God just didn't let her know that she was passing away.
Yeah.
So that soothed my heart a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I wrote the book, because I couldn't find a book where someone could tell me from the inside out how it felt.
Yes.
Connection,
Yeah. And we feel so powerless. I love, though, the sweet story of how you named your foundation. Yeah. Could you tell that?
I sure can. Mother and I were watching Good Times, and she loved to watch Good Times. So she knew there was a connection to the show, but I don't think she understood it was scrambled,
Right.
So she and I were sitting down, and she looked at the show, and JJ and Thelma, that's how I talk about them. JJ and Thelma were battling and doing their thing. And she looked up at me and she said, that's a cute little old girl.
Oh, yeah. Well, oh, man.
So I said, oh, God. I said, Mommy, yes, she is. I wouldn't buck her, that's me, mother, don't you know? I just, yes, she is. And I realized right then and there that this disease is a monster. And I call it the monster of the mind. Yeah. And I said, when this thing is done, I'm going to form a foundation in honor of my mother called Remembering the Good Times.
Yes.
Alzheimer's Foundation.
I love that.
That's
It's so sweet.
really how that name came.
It's so beautiful. It came from heartache, but still you were able to marry all of that together, full circle. And I just think I love that you're doing that. And I love that you're trying to help people going through what you went through. Because like you said, there was nothing that spoke to you.
No.
And since you've been in their homes and they've trusted you all these years, they're more apt to read and do some, to accept, if she's gone through that, then let me hear her struggle and see how I can go through that.
Exactly.
And
that's exactly why I did it.
Yeah, because Dr. So-and-so here, we don't, everybody's a doctor, but you're Dr. Thelma to them,
I'm just Thelma, and it can happen to me.
Yes.
So, it's not a respected person or anything. It happens to people. We are living life and things happen.
Yes.
So it's how we handle them. And I on my mom's deathbed, I knew the moment it was time. I knew it was happening. And I said to her, I know it's time. Mommy at the time was in the hospital with the trach in her throat. She, couldn't speak. And I said, Mommy, I know, I guess it's time to start talking to her. And I was talking to her, and I told her I loved her. And I said, we had fun, Mommy. And I said, what else? I said so many things to her. I said, I loved her about 1,000 times. And I said, Mother, I know you love me too. I said, but it's not over yet.
That's right.
And then I didn't understand this, but they zoomed me out of the room and they said, code blue, code blue. I didn't even know what code blue really meant.
Yeah.
So they took me in the room and they said, if we're going to get her back, we got her back. If she goes again, do you want to get her back? Yes, give my mother back. Yes. And then at that time, my daughters were speaking with my brother, who is a pastor. And he said, give Bernadette the phone. So I got the phone and he said, Bernadette, stop it. I said, stop what? He said, stop it. Let her go.
Yeah.
Because she's only coming back for you.
Yeah.
And it hurts. So when they came back and they asked me, I said, no, let her go. Yeah. And that was it. And so that's when I started to write the book in her honor. I said, if she had to suffer a disease like this, I don't want it to be in vain.
Right.
I wanted to help somebody because she was always that way, to help someone. So who am I to be ashamed of my mother having Alzheimer's?
Right. And I think that's beautiful that you took your pain and made something good come of it.
Yes.
And you actually, I was actually going to ask you next about your brother because I saw some of his sermons on your Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm a Christian myself, so I enjoyed that. So your faith means a lot to you.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit about, how you feel about what your relationship with God is?
Well, people always say personal relationship.
Yes.
And I grew up in a Catholic school and things like that. And I was just a scary little girl. I was afraid of nuns and priests. They scared me. It was so awesome looking. So, I didn't, it wasn't about that. It was about me talking to God himself.
Yes.
And I remember when I was 7 years old, my mother found this little note. I wrote a letter to God at 7, the best I could do, about some shoes. My cousin had these suede shoes and they were really pretty because they had all the different colors on the shoes. And my aunt said to me, I said, Aunt Vicky, I want a pair of shoes like that. And so she said, well, next week I'll buy you a pair. And, I didn't know if she would or not. I'm sure she, And so I wrote a little letter to God. I said, God, I really want those shoes. Please let my Aunt Vicky buy me those shoes. And she did. So I said, oh, thank you, God. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying I always had a connection that way. Things that hurt me deep, deep inside, I always prayed and I talked to God because he made me. I feel God made me, and he knows my heart. He made my heart the way it is. He made my mind the way it is. So if I run into a brick wall, or if I can't figure the maze out, then you gotta give me signs. You gotta show me which way to go.
Yes, yes. I love that. Now, how long has your brother been a pastor?
My brother's been a pastor for 30 years, 31 years. And it's amazing because I put his sermons on my YouTube, right? I mean, on my Instagram. Did you see Instagram or YouTube?
That's where I saw it, yeah.
And everybody was saying to me, well, is it Reverend Stanislaus's Instagram or is it your Instagram? I said, well, it's both. So I took them off, but I want to place them in another place so people can go and hear them because they're so awesome. And I love his preaching because he preaches to the average person. He's not a preachy person. He tells a story, and I just love the way he preaches. And I told him, I said, Kyle, I said, I think that, you know, it's your time to, because you're going through the pandemic and people are going through so much. I said, I think it's time for you to maybe just speak and let maybe you'll touch someone, you'll help someone.
Yes.
And so and every time his speeches come in, I'll put them on because I think that is going to help somebody.
Yes.
And that's just how I feel about it. And I told him, I said, you're going to start getting some interviews. I'm going to make sure you get some interviews. He said, well, just call me and set it up. I said, I will. Because he's shy, believe it or not, he's shy.
Oh, well, I love that you're looking out for each other like that. And do your daughters kind of like that too? Do they kind of have each other's back like that? Or?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, now Thelma was known for her type of cooking, let's say, and I hear that she's gone back into the kitchen for YouTube. Is that correct?
Oh, they told you about that?
Yes.
Yes, I am. No, really, I can cook.
Yes.
Yeah, I can cook, but you know, my character, she couldn't, but I can cook. And so two of my friends that work with me, they are so cute. They Shelton and Nicole and Jade, they encouraged me to do a Good Times burger thing. And I'm like, what? And they said, yes, you know, they want to do a buffalo burger and a buffalo butt burger and what is Nicole? She's doing one, and I'm doing the dynamite burger, and I'm like, oh God, this is gonna be so much fun. It's just gonna be fun, just something to do. And I hear a lot of people, they like to hear the stories behind some of the shows, you know, and how were we on the shows and what the shows meant. And so I want to give my audience some of that, you know, because if I don't do it, I don't think it'll ever be done.
Yeah, I think that it looks like that you guys are going to have to be the ones that preserve that legacy.
Yes.
You're bound to have some new projects in the works.
Yeah, no, I'm writing something. I hope that would take off. You know, it's going to be, you know, for women of my age. I found myself watching television and seeing so many young people on there, and they're great people. I mean, you know, it's not like they're not, but I have to identify, you know, I have to identify with people that, you know, I can live through too.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, so maybe they don't know how to write for a woman of my age and, you know, maybe a cougar or, but, yeah, just something different. You know, besides being somebody's aunt or somebody's grandmother, which is a beautiful thing to be an aunt and a grandmother, because I am. But we also have so many other dimensions. And so that's
exactly.
what I want to write about.
I'm in. I'll be watching.
Oh, thank you,
Matt,
Larry.
what was it like with little Penny on the set?
Well, we were so excited when she was going to come on the show because of her brothers.
Yeah,
Her
that's
brothers are famous. And so, but I knew a couple of them before because I just knew them. And because we had met them before.
Yeah.
But when Janet came on the show, we didn't know what to expect. We were watching her, everybody's watching her. And she was such a good little actress. I mean, every time she did a little part, little tears came down. No, mama, no. I was crying. Like, oh. So I'm like, she's really good. It's not like she's just their sister, so she's on the show. No, she was really good.
Yes.
And one thing I must say about her, she was a sweet, sweet child.
Yeah.
She wasn't spoiled. She didn't have attitude, nothing. She was quiet. She was, a little shy, but she knew her lines. She did her thing. And the wardrobe lady always teases because I always laugh because when I change my clothes, I just threw, get stuff on, get on back on a set. Right? She said at the end of the show, she would go into Janet's room and Janet would have her little shoes in the little corner. She'd have her little barrettes on the table, her little earrings on the table, her little clothes hung up. Oh. And nobody did it but her.
Yeah.
She was just so totally together.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Totally together.
Well, she was probably in awe being around you guys. So
we saw her in Vegas. We saw her in Vegas about 3 years ago, just before the pandemic. She was in Vegas doing her show.
Yeah.
And I went backstage to see her, and we were leaving, we were talking and everything. I think her dad had just died. Oh, and yeah. I told her, I'm sorry about that. I was close with her mom. Her mom and I, we were close. And so I asked, when we were leaving, she said, a Bernadette, and she said, I just want to thank you.
Oh, I just love it. Now, how can we get your books? I want all the viewers to purchase the books. Would it be Amazon or?
Well, Amazon, you can do it at Amazon, but you won't get an autograph. If you go to my website, Thelma of Good Times, and you order the book, I will definitely put your name, I'd autograph it to you and put Thelma and everything in a book for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Larry. Mr. Nashville.
I love that. You even did the Thelma head, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Subscribe to our mailing list and you could win a CD or DVD project by today's featured artist. To enter, please go to www.mrnashvilletalks.com and enter your email address. While there, take a look around, browse through our music store. Our show is totally funded by viewer support. Every t-shirt or music purchase from our store helps bring us new shows for you.